Official news from Buckingham Palace that the process of stripping the title from Queen Camilla has officially begun.
An internal will had a line granting favorable personal asset provisions to Camilla's stepchildren erased overnight. What seemed like a purely legal adjustment exploded into a dark campaign of revenge. Camilla launched a sophisticated plot, from deepfake videos smearing William to internal manipulation, all aimed at reallocating power before he could ascend to the throne. Camilla embodied the shadow of ambition, operating behind the scenes to protect her children's legacy, standing in opposition to William, an emblem of transparency and justice, determined to defend the royal order against internal betrayal. The consequences were total. Camilla's honor collapsed completely, her power dissolved, her legacy erased. Does this price suffice to deter those who dare challenge the throne? A mysterious file fell into Camilla's hands. No title, no message, only a cold legal designation proving it had been approved. No public announcement, no trace, only a terrifying silence. The first page revealed a two-column comparison, the old version and the updated one. Abruptly, without explanation, without reason. The sections concerning personal assets, once a shield for her own children, had been completely erased. In their place, a single word leapt out: superseded, replaced, severed. No signature, no name, no date. The procedure was permissible, yet the intermediary steps had been entirely wiped away, as if someone had deliberately concealed everything. Camilla opened the file immediately. Her heart raced wildly. She read each line again and again, page after page, eyes fixed on the section detailing private asset entitlements. The clause approving the transfer of assets to her two children, Tom and Laura, had vanished entirely. That clause had been something she and Charles had agreed upon long ago, after countless pleas and negotiations. Those assets were, in essence, accumulated by her through her position as queen, leveraged through projects and connections, not part of the original royal estate. She had fought fiercely to force Charles's approval, to protect her children's future from being pushed aside. Now, in that empty space, new provisions appeared, clearly favoring William. The assets had been redirected, prioritizing the legitimate line. Camilla flipped through the pages frantically, her hands trembling. No appendix, no transitional notes, no trace of the old agreement. Camilla sprang to her feet at once, fury erupting like an uncontrollable wildfire, driving her into a frenzy on the spot as she became convinced that William himself had forced Charles to change everything without hesitation. She thought immediately of him using his influence to make Charles retract the old agreement, completely severing the private asset rights intended for Tom and Laura, pushing her children aside solely to consolidate the exclusive position of his legitimate bloodline. With no concrete evidence in hand, without confronting anyone around her, yet in Camilla's mind, every arrow of suspicion pointed straight at William without deviation, because he had dared to touch her sacred bloodline, dared to erase what she had fought for over so many years to protect. She clenched the file so tightly that the paper crumpled in her trembling hands, her eyes blazing with murderous fury as her rage surged beyond restraint, transforming into a violent wave that swept away all remaining reason. The thought of retaliation flared fiercely in her mind, utterly without mercy, for she swore she would make him pay a price so devastating he could never have imagined, a price that would make him taste the same pain. While Camilla boiled with rage that was mutating into a dark conspiracy in her thoughts, William, the man she regarded as the mastermind, remained completely unaware. He was still focused on preparing for succession, attending closed-door meetings with advisors about the transfer of power, laying out long-term plans to consolidate the position of the legitimate line. For William, everything was proceeding smoothly, without a shadow of suspicion. because he had never imagined that protecting the interests of the legitimate bloodline would ignite such a brutal storm of revenge from a woman he had always considered peripheral. He reviewed his packed schedule, not realizing in the slightest that deep within the palace, a vicious plan was taking shape, aimed directly at his credibility and his future, ready to strike at any moment. She stood motionless before the computer screen in her private room, her hands trembling not from fear, but from the surge of exhilaration rising within her as the first deepfake video created by her hired lackeys appeared in sharp detail. The scene showed William lunging forward, savagely punching Tom Parker Bowles until his face was bruised and bloodied, so realistic that Camilla almost believed it was real. Almost, because she knew this was a weapon she herself had forged. She paused the footage at the exact moment of the final blow, slowly zooming in on the fabricated wound on Tom's cheek, the torn skin, the blood dripping. And then she smiled, a cold, razor-sharp smile spreading across her face like a freshly honed blade. This was no longer a mere legal betrayal. This was war, and she would be the one holding the knife. In Camilla's mind, everything was terrifyingly clear. William had whispered poisonous words into Charles's ear at precisely the right moments, erasing the agreements she had spent so long persuading him to accept. The nights of endurance, the promises she had paid for with silence and loyalty. She believed William was a usurper, and she would reclaim everything by making the world see that William was unworthy, not through words, but through images that could never be erased. The first step was complete. She hired hackers to create a deliberately low-quality edited video, the kind that looked like shaky phone footage, with tilted angles, dim lighting, and layers of street noise and static, all designed to prevent experts from immediately detecting the forgery pixel by pixel. She reviewed the finished file at 2 a.m. through an encrypted channel, watching it 3 times in succession, each viewing widening the smile on her lips as a sense of power surged within her. The next step was carried out that very night, leaking it to the tabloid press. She secretly transferred £200,000 to each outlet through untraceable offshore accounts to 3 notorious royal scooping tabloids. The articles appeared simultaneously early the next morning. Prince William assaults a man in a private meeting, accompanied by the horrifying clipped video. The images spread like wildfire across dry grass, the hashtag William the Brute exploding within hours, shooting straight to the top of global trending charts. The royal family was immediately hit hard. The image of transparency William had built over many years shook violently. Emergency internal meetings were convened one after another, and the Royal Council demanded detailed reports from the security team. William was forced to voluntarily withdraw from several key events without issuing any statement, exactly as Camilla had calculated. Each step back he took was a step forward for her. He appeared less and less in the media, sinking deeper into the shadows to protect himself. She observed from afar, through covert channels, watching him disappear from the spotlight, watching the monarchy slip into a state of defensive paralysis, and a wave of satisfaction rose within her, like fine wine. The plan was unfolding perfectly. William was retreating into the darkness of a quiet investigation, assembling his own team to trace the source of the video. She knew this through her discreet surveillance network, but she was not afraid. She had prepared for every possible counterattack. Camilla sat alone in her private room, turning off all the lights until only the computer screen illuminated her face with a cold, blue glow. She looked at the final video file one last time, then pressed delete, erasing every trace permanently. Nothing remained. She smiled in contentment. The anger born from the leaked will had now transformed into real, tangible power. William received a barrage of consecutive security reports. The leaked video spread simultaneously across tabloid newspapers. Sensational headlines blared. Prince William assaults a man in a private meeting. The shaky, covert footage, deliberately low in quality, depicted William lunging forward, punching the victim until he was bruised and bloodied, his face smeared with gore. Recognizing how rapidly the impact of the fabricated video was spreading, William proactively withdrew from upcoming public events, issuing no official statement whatsoever. The royal household slipped into a state of tension. Meetings were abruptly cancelled, staff moved more quickly than usual, the atmosphere fell silent like the calm before a storm, with only furtive glances exchanged between advisors and documents being passed hand to hand, more discreetly. William immediately assembled his elite team. He ordered an analysis of the video's origin, the stabilization of public sentiment through discrete channels, and instructed technicians to examine every single frame in detail. The team compiled a list of suspicious financial transactions and gathered data from media outlets. A group of specialists produced a technical analysis, identifying manipulated pixels, spliced seams, and distorted audio, proving that the video was a product of sophisticated editing. William ordered the investigation expanded, monitoring all internal communications and locking down personal information. The technical team worked continuously, comparing audio samples and examining digital traces. The first report came back. The video was wrapped in a sophisticated protective layer, its low quality used deliberately to conceal signs of manipulation. William signed off on deeper tracing, but progress slowed due to the dense layers of obfuscation. That same night, William issued orders to further expand the investigation, sealing personal information channels and demanding a review of all internal communications that could intersect with the distribution chain. The technical team switched to round-the-clock operations, peeling away each layer of compression, cross-referencing audio patterns, and tracking deliberately blurred digital traces. The first report returned. The video was shielded by a refined protective layer, with low quality employed as a smokescreen to hide key points of alteration. William authorized deeper tracing. Progress immediately slowed as layers of concealment overlapped, each stripped layer revealing yet another intermediary beneath. In the days that followed, evidence arrived in fragmented pieces. None were sufficient to identify the perpetrator directly. All pointed to a single conclusion. The video was fake on its surface layer. The investigation stalled. Progress reports shifted to a slower pace. William ordered a full reanalysis from the beginning, reshuffling cross-functional teams, but the results remained a series of broken lines. Surveillance was expanded. Data continued to pour in, growing denser but still disjointed. Evidence of splicing accumulated steadily, yet no identity behind it emerged. The Royal Council ended its session without a final decision. The breakthrough came late and unexpectedly. The account that first uploaded the video was identified as belonging to an individual overseas. Digging deeper into transaction histories, fragmented money transfers surfaced, leading back to a close aide of Camilla. The chain was not yet complete, but it was enough to change the direction of the investigation. Suspicion of the mastermind behind the operation was no longer a vague hypothesis. It began to take on a name, a trajectory, and a tangible point of contact. The report reached Camilla through the corridors, delivered by a close aide in a brief, decisive manner. William's investigative team was circling fragmented pieces of evidence, connections repeatedly breaking apart, progress slowing after each round of analysis. The tracing chain had stalled at the technical layer, unable to reach any identities. That information alone was enough for Camilla to move to the next step the very same day. The second campaign was activated through selective approaches. Camilla targeted a group of conservative advisors who had previously clashed directly with William's interests, those who had seen their personal budget proposals rejected, their privately beneficial projects stalled during earlier approval rounds. Each meeting took place individually, on flexible schedules, leaving no administrative trace. On the table were carefully edited internal documents outlining William's future reform plans, frameworks for tightening authority, proposals for spending oversight, and limits on political influence. The documents were handed over without comment, allowing the recipients to reach their own conclusions. This sequence of approaches quickly formed a parallel exchange network. Camilla reinforced it by repeating the same message axis through multiple channels. A William-led era meant shrinking advisory power, cutting personal budgets, tightening oversight of influence, and gradually dismantling traditional privileges. Anxiety was cultivated through each meeting, each document, each deliberately repeated reminder. In a short time, these advisors began contacting one another regularly, sharing materials, arranging closed-door meetings, forming an alliance operating on its own rhythm. A dossier on William was assembled at speed. Fragmentary details were stripped from their contexts, past decisions reinterpreted unfavorably, personal expenditures placed side by side to create an impression of pattern. Each small piece was pinned into a growing file of suspicion with every meeting. The objective was not a conclusion, but the ability to use that dossier as leverage at precisely the right moment. As crisis management sessions over the scandal unfolded, the Conservative Alliance seized the tempo through procedure. Questions were posed according to a pre-arranged script. Requests for additional assessments surfaced at moments demanding decisiveness. William's proposals were held back for impact reviews, pushed into subsequent rounds of scrutiny. William sensed the shift through the rhythm of meetings and the substance of exchanges. Faces that had once shown discontent now appeared in coordinated fashion, posing matching questions as if roles had been assigned. A new investigative branch was activated, focusing on meeting schedules, communications, and transaction flows within this advisory group. An unexpected leak erupted from deep within the Conservative Alliance. A trembling advisor requested a private meeting with William in a secure room. The encounter was swift and direct, without a second's delay. The advisor placed on the table stacks of clandestine meeting notes, role-assigned question lists, concealed meeting schedules with no recorded traces, and scattered directives revealing mechanisms designed to block William's proposals at key sessions, all arranged with a chillingly synchronized decision rhythm and recurring message content, converging relentlessly on a single focal point, whose name he dared not speak, after witnessing the unrestrained, savage madness of Camilla's vengeful obsession. William swiftly cross-checked the testimony against data already gathered from the video smear investigation. The overseas account that first uploaded the footage, the fragmented money transfers, the links to Camilla's close aide. The pieces locked together in chronological order, exposing a two-tier operational structure, applying public pressure through images and articles, then tightening internal control through procedures and advisory alliances to paralyze responses. The conclusion took shape on his desk, requiring no declaration. Draft documents were secured, copies dispersed safely, the evidence chain reorganized to preserve integrity. From that point on, William shifted to controlling the tempo, locking down nodes, continuing collection, and allowing the opposing network to reveal itself through the speed and aggression of its next moves. All critical data had been collected and carefully organized into a complete dossier. The earlier disputes, corridor rumors, and pressure from public opinion were temporarily set aside by William. He understood that this was no longer a moment for reaction, but for preparation toward a decisive move. All materials were transferred to a high security status, accessible only to a very small group. William established an independent legal team composed of individuals not involved in previous meetings. This team received the full set of original documents to re-examine every detail, ensuring that all evidence was valid and could be presented before the council. In parallel, the technical team sealed all data related to Camilla's aide, from server logs to internal access schedules. eliminating any possibility of later interference or alteration. Meanwhile, William did not rush to speak publicly. He remained silent, allowing advisory groups to continue expressing their positions. Proposals for delay, requests for further review, and repetitive questions raised during meetings were carefully recorded. William instructed his team to closely monitor developments, creating comparison tables between statements made in meeting rooms and internal directives restored from archived emails. On the other side, the Conservative Advisory Group continued pushing for the appointment of a temporary regent. They exchanged confidential documents, lobbied behind the scenes, and held individual meetings. William had every contact schedule recorded, without revealing any intent to intervene. Each meeting was placed alongside existing evidence, forming an increasingly clear picture of how coordination was occurring behind the scenes. William also worked directly with his private royal legal counsel. Together, they agreed on the structure of the dossier presentation, first proving that the video had been fabricated, second, identifying the flow of money and associated connections, and finally, clarifying the role of the Advisory Alliance in delaying key decisions. Everything was prepared in a logical sequence, avoiding unnecessary disputes. New reports continued to arrive. Additional financial transactions were confirmed, revealing clearer links between Camilla's aide and the group responsible for producing the video. Camilla's private meeting schedule matched key moments in the internal directive chain. The legal team confirmed that the dossier was now solid enough to be presented to the council without risk of procedural challenge. During closed working sessions, William asked the team to represent the entire dossier in a different order to conduct a final logical verification. The timeline of the video leak was placed first, accompanied by analysis demonstrating that the footage had been edited. Next came the financial transactions, network access logs, and finally internal documents reflecting abnormal decision rhythms in previous meetings. Each layer of information was set beside the next, without debate, purely for comparison. William instructed the team to disregard distracting details and focus on the chain of directives. Who benefited from prolonging ambiguity? Who had the capacity to influence both media and internal processes? Who had intermediaries bridging financial transactions and closed meetings? When these questions were posed simultaneously, the field of suspicion narrowed rapidly. A supplemental report on Camilla's aide was added to the analysis table. Fragmented transfers coincided with the video preparation period. Network access logs matched the dates of conservative advisory meetings. Restored directive emails shared the same tone, objectives, and precisely timed questioning strategy. William required no further speculation. The connections had closed themselves. At that moment, William halted all internal debate. He instructed the team to move the dossier into a preparation state. No presentation, no reaction, no disclosure. What mattered now was not persuading the council, but clearly identifying the coordination center and preserving the entire evidence chain before anyone could adjust their behavior. William concluded internally that this was not a series of isolated incidents, but a tightly organized campaign with a single, continuous command point. No name was spoken in the meeting, but the direction was locked. From that moment onward, every subsequent preparation step was built around one assumption: the architect had been exposed, and the only remaining questions were timing and method, how and when the truth would be brought into the light. William convened an emergency royal council immediately after receiving the final report, confirming the complete linkage from Camilla's aide to the hacker. Documents were printed in haste, thick files stacked densely across the conference table. Senior members were summoned abruptly, with no time to prepare. The doors were locked, and no aides were permitted inside. William opened by placing the fabricated video dossier on the table, delivering a detailed technical breakdown of each frame, edited pixel traces, distorted audio masking synthetic layers. He then moved to offshore account trails, receiving fragmented transfers from Camilla's aide. Conservative advisors turned pale. Chairs shifted subtly, as if preparing to retreat. But the doors were already sealed. William accelerated the pace, presenting recovered emails that revealed covert instructions to ask questions at the right moment, reject every William proposal, followed by clandestine meeting notes from a defecting advisor. Scripted question lists, concealed meeting schedules, scattered directives converging on Camilla. A cold, synchronized decision rhythm, messages repeating like a malignant incantation. Unease spread visibly among the conservative advisors. One attempted to interrupt, but William cut him off with another report. Proxy server access traced to the royal network, matching the timing of secret meetings, hacker transactions aligning precisely with the video leak date. Camilla sat in a corner, hands gripping the chair arms, eyes cold, yet pupils dilating for the first time. Other advisors began to avert their gaze from her, chairs edging farther away. William pressed on, displaying a slide of the connection diagram, red arrows converging on Camilla. Transfers, emails, secret meetings, role assignments, all aimed at delaying abdication, appointing a regent, and stripping him of authority. The conservative advisors bowed their heads. The council fell into a deathly silence. Camilla attempted to respond, but could not speak. William added another analysis. Synthetic voice profiling from the video matched samples previously recorded internally by Camilla's aide. Her face drained of color entirely. The confrontation escalated rapidly. William concluded with the final report. This operation originated from a single source, pushing the draft internal dossier onto the table. Camilla was ordered to remain. Other advisors were placed under immediate supervision. William gathered the files and walked toward the door, then turned back for one last look at Camilla. She did not look at him, her eyes fixed on the tabletop. The council descended into chaos, decisions suspended, the balance of power shaken violently. Camilla was isolated on the spot. Her personal documents were confiscated. Conservative advisors were interrogated individually. A rapid MI5 report confirmed additional traces. The council adjourned in deadlock, but a ruling was drafted urgently. William ordered further lockdown measures as teams continued evidence collection. Then a new report surfaced. An undeleted email from Camilla's aide instructing, "Destroy if discovered." The confrontation ended abruptly, but the pressure intensified, and the collapse of reputation spread rapidly. An internal source confirmed that Camilla attempted to contact her aide immediately after the confrontation. But if that aide had already been under William's surveillance, her final layer of protection had fully disintegrated. Immediately after the confrontation, Camilla attempted to call her aide. The call was blocked. Messages failed to send. Internal access was locked simultaneously across multiple systems. Communication channels shut down completely. There was no prior warning. Inside the meeting room, the balance of power shifted instantly. The Royal Council moved into an emergency verdict session. No recess, no additional consultations. William presided in his father's place. His voice was short, cold, without emphasis. The evidence files were presented one final time. Each dossier was placed on the table. Timelines were pre-marked. Stacks of documents were arranged in rows, thick and sharp, leaving no need for further explanation. Conservative advisors were removed from the room in order of the list. Each was instructed to surrender their access cards and exit through separate corridors, awaiting further notice. When the doors closed, only Camilla remained, seated at the center of the encirclement. No one stood beside her. No one spoke on her behalf. The verdict was read swiftly and decisively, without negotiation. The title of queen was revoked. The designation queen consort was erased from all official records, effective immediately. The divorce decree was placed on the table. Signatures were executed on the spot. Charles entered, visibly fatigued, holding the pen. He paused briefly, then signed, pushing the document forward as the completion of an irreversible procedure. Administrative decisions followed in rapid succession. Allied advisors were suspended that same day. Authority frozen. Personal files sealed. Offices locked. Several received orders to leave the palace within 24 hours. No lengthy notices. No further explanations. System statuses were updated. Asset actions followed immediately. Clarence House was transferred. Personal charitable funds were merged into public trusts. Windsor lands were placed into community conversion programs. A statement was released just hours after the session. The press erupted. Headlines flooded in. Updates followed updates. The departure order was executed that night. Camilla left the palace with a single small suitcase. A civilian vehicle waited. She departed along a predetermined route toward a remote village in Scotland. The ban on public appearances took effect indefinitely. Meanwhile, William initiated the restoration process immediately. He signed orders for sweeping reforms, increased financial transparency, reduction of conservative privileges, establishment of an independent oversight committee, and expanded public engagement through open events. The Royal Council was restructured. Key positions were replaced. A new order was built from the ashes. Public trust gradually recovered through transparent reporting. Protests turned into support as concrete actions emerged. Headlines read, "Prince William revives the monarchy." William stepped onto the balcony. No speech, no slogans, only a steady presence. Yet the pressure of constant public scrutiny remained heavy. The monarchy was revived, but the scar left by Camilla's conspiracy remained etched deep. Every decision from that point forward would be examined closely, questioned relentlessly, a reminder that restored power is not built on glory, but on vigilance that never fades. Is the punishment of stripping all titles, an immediate divorce, confiscation of all personal assets, and solitary exile in Scotland truly fair and sufficiently deterrent for someone who manipulated the entire royal family from the shadows? Or is it still too lenient compared to the scale of betraying trust and nearly destroying the line of succession of a centuries-old monarchy? In the context of the British royal family's long-standing emphasis on tolerance and forgiveness, does consigning Camilla to permanent oblivion without any opportunity for redemption represent a form of cold but necessary justice? Or does it inadvertently set a precedent that those who lose power, struggles will be erased entirely without mercy? Share your thoughts with us in the comment section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.